begin with Matt Finn. He is reporting live from Minneapolis. It was an early morning. Matt, he made some news.
Yeah, a pretty big announcement as far as a change in policy and procedure here, a pivotal change. Right there, Tom Homan saying that the state attorney general here in Minnesota, Keith Ellison, says that jails can notify ICE when they are about to release a wanted criminal illegal alien.
I had a very good meeting with Attorney General Ellison, and he has clarified for me that county jails may notify ICE of the release dates of criminal public safety risks so ICE can take custody of them upon the release from the jail.
So this is notable because the Trump administration has been asking, sanctuary jurisdictions to cooperate with ICE detainers to simply notify them, notify the federal government when they are going to release a wanted criminal illegal alien. Tom Homan saying that that is now going to happen here in the state of Minnesota. This still does come down to local sheriffs and jails for their participation, for them to also possibly detain wanted criminal illegal aliens as well. But for now, the state attorney general here says at minimum, they are going to notify the federal government when they are going to release a wanted criminal illegal alien. Now, also, Homan announced that they will be focusing on targeted enforcements here, targeting public safety threats and national security interests. Our impression is that agents will now be ending the roving patrols here in the Twin City. That's what sources have been telling us. The roving patrols have been controversial because that is when agents can drive around and pop out of the car and question people, ask for identification. Homan did say today, though, that if you have entered the country illegally, you're never off the table for possible questioning or deportation. Now, Homan was also asked about this new video that appears to show a clash between Alex Preddy with ICE agents the week before he was shot and killed last Saturday. Preddy apparently spits at an official ICE vehicle, kicks and busts a taillight before being tackled to the ground. A family representative tells Fox the video is Preddy, that he was injured, but he did not receive medical care. An organization called the News Movement says it shot the video as part of a documentary. News Movement reports Preddy's gun is visible on him in that video. An attorney for the family writes, a week before Alex was gunned down in the street, despite posing no threat to anyone, he was violently assaulted by a group of ICE agents. Nothing that happened a full week before could possibly have justified Alex's killing at the hands of ICE on January 24th. Now, the family attorney claims that Preddy was violently assaulted by ICE agents in this new video, but Border Patrol here on the ground tells me if you kick one of their cars and break a taillight, that's a crime. And if Preddy was armed while he kicked and spat at the agents, it could be a felony because he was in the possession of a gun while committing another crime. Now, Homan was asked inside of the press conference about this new video, about the other shootings here. He said he is not going to comment about those active investigations. Back to you guys.
All right, Matt Finn, thank you so much. Getting us started today on America's Newsroom.
Let's go ahead and get some hot reaction right now from Hugh Hewitt. Hugh, you've been watching. Good morning. Welcome to our coverage. How did Homan do? Where do we go next on this?
Good morning, Bill. Good morning, Dana. That was a master class in communication. The border czar was calm throughout, demonstrating what 40 years in law enforcement will do, which is provide you a wealth of precision, a wealth of experience on which to draw. He answered a few questions, but mostly his messaging was, we are here to do a job. I've discussed that job with all of the local officials. As a reporter noted, the Attorney General has agreed to detainer notices from state prison. He is not retreating. He complimented President Trump for his remarkable consistency on the border messaging. And what I think was most effective in his messaging, he mentioned that for 4 years the border was open and that anyone who crossed it would get a plane ticket and lots of benefits if they would just work with people at the border, and that 2 million people chose not to do that, and he is most worried about those 2 million people because for some reason their incentive was not to interact with the Border Patrol and Customs and Immigration Enforcement when they crossed the border, when it was open. So he set the table for people to understand. So my hat is off to Tom Homan. He's the third generation cop. He spent 30 years with the Border Patrol. He joined ICE in 2013. President Obama gave him a senior job, gave him a senior award. He stuck around for Trump 1. He's back at Trump 2. I think he's a profoundly competent public servant. But what I appreciated the most is he did not raise his voice. He stuck to facts, and he made it very clear that those who are engaged in the Signal groups, the WhatsApp group, justice is coming. That came at the end. It was a question that maybe people didn't stick around for, but justice is coming, which is what I think a lot of people, left, right, and center, who are not radical, who are not engaged in violence, wanted to hear that those who are provoking, those who are agitating, justice is coming for them, and immigration enforcement in the meantime is going to continue in Minneapolis.
I believe the other thing that he was able to do is to fulfill what President Trump asked, which is for a pivot. And Tom Homan was quiet for a couple of days, got the situation assessed, communicated with the local officials, and didn't come out too early and make promises he couldn't keep. He did talk about the increasing rhetoric against ICE agents. Let's listen to him here.
The hostile rhetoric and dangerous threats and hate must stop. And we all agreed to that. All everybody met here to tell you, we got to stop the rhetoric. I begged for the last 2 months on TV for the rhetoric to stop. I said in March, if the rhetoric didn't stop, there's going to be bloodshed. And there has been. I wish I wasn't right. I don't want to see anybody die. Not officers, not members of the community, and not the targets of our operations. And
Hugh, I was disturbed last night on the 5. We played this compilation of Democrat politicians, including Pritzker, who was saying that, and then Krasner out of Philadelphia, really ratcheting up the agitators when it comes to being against ICE. And so I think Tom Homan is a very calming influence there in Minnesota. Maybe it'll spread throughout, but I feel like left-wing politicians are dug in.
They are, and I don't think it's going to stop on the fringes, though in Minneapolis and Minnesota, I think it will be dialed back because they paid the price. What I thought was so very, very winsome about Tom Homan this morning is his refusal to have an opinion on the latest Preddy video of the second man who was killed in Minnesota. And that's an example for everyone. We are an instant replay society. We learn to have opinions on the fly. When the NFL or the Major League Baseball pitching strikes is called, we all have opinions on whether or not they're good calls. This is not that. Tom Homan refusing to comment on a video is perhaps the best example for the left wing and the right wing who want to comment on everything they see unfolding in front of them. Absolutely, I want to go back to what I first said. He's a master communicator. And if everyone would simply adopt his tone, his style, and his realization that these are life and death situations, that we don't want any more violent deaths because they're just doing their job and there's a real job to be done. A lot of illegal alien criminals entered the country. They've got to be found. They've got to be deported. But that's the tone. I think Donald Trump has got exactly what he wanted from Director Homan going up.
All right, Hugh, looking forward on that last point, there are 12 states plus the District of Columbia considered a sanctuary jurisdiction. There are 4 counties in the same category. There are 18 cities, including New York, that are in the same category. Hopefully calm in the future. Calm for now, anyway, with Tom Homan's voice there, and we'll see when he leaves Minneapolis. Hugh, thanks for that instant reaction. Thanks for coming on today.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.